The first time I tried to change my life, I stood outside a classroom for 12 minutes. Then I turned around and went home. The second time, I reached for the same door. My hand was shaking, and every part of me wanted to run again. But that night, I opened it. I did not know it then, but that small decision would change everything. My name is Hannah Brooks. I was 39 years old, and I worked as a cleaner at the Lakeview Hotel in a small town called Brookfield. Every morning, I arrived before sunrise. I pushed a heavy cart through long, quiet halls. I made beds, cleaned bathrooms, and picked up things that guests left behind. Sometimes I found coins under the beds. Sometimes I found expensive shoes, unfinished food, or family photographs. Those photographs always made me stop. In them, people were smiling beside the ocean. They were standing near famous buildings or holding birthday cakes. Their lives looked full. Mine felt like a room after the guests had left. For 12 years, I had told myself that I should be thankful. I had a job. I had a small apartment. I had enough money for rent and food. But each evening, when I took off my work shoes, I felt something heavy inside me. I was alive, but I was not really living. My marriage had ended 3 years earlier. My husband, Daniel, had left after months of fighting. He told me I complained too much. I told him he never listened. The truth was that we had both stopped trying. After he left, I blamed him for everything. Then, slowly, I began blaming myself. Maybe I was too difficult. Maybe I was not smart enough. Maybe this was the best life I could ever have. Those thoughts followed me everywhere. They followed me into the hotel rooms. They sat beside me on the bus. They waited for me in my dark apartment every night. I had a daughter named Lily. She was 17 and lived with Daniel during the week because her school was closer to his house. She stayed with me on some weekends, but our relationship had changed. When she was younger, she told me everything. At 17, she answered most questions with 1 or 2 words. How was school? Fine. Are you hungry? No. Is something wrong? I'm tired. I knew she loved me, but I also knew she was watching me. She saw how tired I was. She heard me say that nothing would ever change. One Sunday evening, as she packed her bag to return to her father's house, she looked around my apartment. The curtains were closed, although the sun was still out. Dirty cups stood beside the sink. My work clothes were lying across a chair. Mom, she said quietly, are you happy? The question surprised me. Of course, I answered too quickly. Why wouldn't I be? She did not smile. You never do anything you like anymore. I work. That isn't what I mean. I turned toward the sink because I did not want her to see my face. Adults don't always get to do what they like. Lily pulled the zipper on her bag. You always say that. Then she left. Her words stayed in the apartment after the door closed. That night, I stood in the kitchen for a long time. The room was so quiet that I could hear the old refrigerator turning on and off. I tried to remember the last thing I had done because I wanted to do it. I could not remember. The next morning, something unusual happened at the hotel. Our manager, Mr. Coleman, called all the workers into the staff room. He stood beside a table with a sheet of paper in his hand. The hotel needs a new front desk assistant, he said. The position will open next month. Everyone became interested. The front desk job paid more than cleaning. It also had better hours and health benefits. You need clear English, basic computer skills, and good communication, Mr. Coleman continued. Anyone who has worked here for more than 1 year may apply. My heart began to beat faster. I had worked at the hotel for 6 years. I knew every floor, every service, and almost every problem that guests could have. I knew the hotel better than some people at the front desk. For one bright second, I imagined myself standing behind the main counter. I was wearing a clean blue jacket instead of my grey cleaning uniform. Then a voice beside me whispered, "That job isn't for people like us." It was my coworker, Carla. She had worked beside me for 4 years. She was funny, but she always expected the worst. They want someone young, she said. Someone educated. Mr. Coleman placed the application forms on the table. No one moved at first. Then 2 younger workers walked forward and took forms. I wanted to follow them. Instead, I looked down at my hands. My English was good enough for simple conversations, but I became nervous around strangers. When someone spoke quickly, my mind often became empty. I had never used a hotel computer system. I had left school when I was 18. Carla was right. That job was not for someone like me. At least, that was what I told myself. During lunch, I sat alone behind the hotel near the delivery door. The wind carried the smell of rain. I watched guests enter through the glass front doors. A woman at the desk smiled and gave a family their room keys. It looked simple when she did it. Then I noticed a piece of paper under the bench. I picked it up before the wind could carry it away. It was an advertisement for free evening classes at Brookfield Community Center. English conversation. Basic computer skills. Job preparation. Classes began that evening. I read the paper 3 times. For a moment, it felt like someone had placed an answer directly in front of me. Then the old voice inside me returned. You are too old. You will look foolish. Other students will be better than you. You will start, fail, and feel worse than before. I folded the paper and put it into my pocket. All afternoon, I thought about it. At 5 o'clock, I changed clothes and walked toward the bus stop. My normal bus went east, toward my apartment. The community center was west. 2 buses arrived at almost the same time. I stood between them. The driver of my usual bus opened the door. Coming, he called. I almost stepped forward. Then I remembered Lily standing in my apartment. You never do anything you like anymore. I looked at the second bus. Before I could change my mind, I ran toward it. The community center was an old brick building beside a public library. Yellow light shone through the windows. Inside, a woman at the front desk showed me where to go. Room 14, she said. 2nd floor. I walked slowly up the stairs. Every step felt heavier than the last. When I reached room 14, I could hear people talking inside. Someone laughed. My hand moved toward the door. Then I imagined everyone turning to look at me. I imagined the teacher asking a question I could not answer. I imagined making a mistake and hearing people laugh. So I stood there. 1 minute passed. Then 5. Then 12. Finally, I walked away. I returned home angry with myself. I threw the advertisement into the trash and turned on the television. I did not care what was playing. I only wanted noise. But I could not stop thinking about that closed door. The next day, I avoided the staff room because the front desk applications were still on the table. That evening, Lily called me. She needed a book that she had left at my apartment. While I looked for it, she asked, "Did you do anything today besides work?" The question made me stop. There was a class, I said. What kind of class? English and computer skills. That sounds good. I didn't go. There was a short silence. Why not? I went to the building, but I didn't enter. Were you scared? I felt embarrassed admitting it to my own daughter. Yes. Lily's voice became softer. You can go again. You don't understand. Everyone there probably knows more than I do. Then that means they can help you. I found her book under the sofa. What if I fail? Then you fail once, she said. It doesn't mean you have to fail forever. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Lily said something I will never forget. Mom, maybe you don't need to become a different person. Maybe you just need to stop believing you can't change. After the call ended, I took the advertisement out of the trash. I cleaned it carefully with a wet cloth. The next evening, I returned to the community center. The same voices came from room 14. The same fear rose inside me. But this time, I opened the door. About 15 students sat in a circle. Some were young. Others looked older than me. A woman with silver glasses stood near a whiteboard. She smiled. "Come in." We were hoping one more person would join us. I entered and sat in the only empty chair. "My name is Grace Miller," the teacher said. "In this class, mistakes are welcome." A few people laughed. She raised her hand. "I am serious. A mistake means you tried something new. If nobody makes mistakes, nobody is learning." Her words felt as if they were meant only for me. During the first activity, each student had to stand and introduce themselves. When my turn came, my legs felt weak. I stood slowly. "My name is Hannah," I said. "I work in a hotel. I want to improve my English." Grace waited. "And why do you want to improve?" I had prepared no answer. The room became quiet. I looked at the strangers around me. They were not laughing. They were waiting. "I want a better job," I finally said. Then another thought came. "No," I corrected myself. "I want a better life." Grace smiled. "That is a good reason to begin." After class, she gave us a simple plan. We had to speak 5 English sentences every day. We also had to practice typing for 15 minutes. It sounded too small to matter. I had expected long lessons, difficult books, and hours of homework. Grace seemed to read my thoughts. "Big goals often frighten us," she said. "Small steps allow us to keep moving." That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror. I looked tired. My hair was still wet from the rain. The grey work uniform made me look older than I felt. I spoke 5 sentences. "My name is Hannah. I work at the Lakeview Hotel. I am learning new skills. I am afraid. But I am still trying." My voice was quiet. Still, I finished every sentence. The next night, I did it again. Then again. I began using a computer at the public library. At first, I could not find the right keys. I pressed the wrong buttons. I closed programs by mistake. Once, I deleted a whole practice page. Each mistake made me want to stop. But I remembered what Grace had said. A mistake means you tried something new. After 2 weeks, I could type a short email. After 4 weeks, I could answer simple questions without looking at the floor. The changes were small, but Lily noticed them. One Saturday, she entered my apartment and looked around. The curtains were open. Music was playing. A notebook lay on the table beside a library book. "You cleaned," she said. "I usually clean. Not like this." She picked up the notebook. On the first page, I had written 1 sentence in large letters. "This is not who I will always be." Lily read it and smiled. For the first time in months, we cooked dinner together. I told her about my class. I told her about my mistakes. I even told her how I had stood outside the classroom and run away the first night. She did not laugh. "I'm proud of you," she said. No one had said those words to me for a long time. 5 weeks after the classes began, Mr. Coleman entered the cleaning office. "The front desk interviews are next Friday," he said. "Today is the last day to apply." He looked around the room. Carla shook her head before he even finished speaking. When he left, she turned to me. "Don't tell me you are thinking about it. I might apply." She stared at me. "Hannah, be serious. They will ask difficult questions. You will freeze." The old fear returned at once. She was saying the same things I had said to myself. Maybe she was right. I finished my work and went to the staff room. 1 application form remained on the table. I picked it up. My hands started shaking. At the top, it asked for my education, work history, and special skills. The empty spaces seemed larger than they really were. I held the pen above the page. Then I heard Carla's voice in the hallway. For a moment, I almost put the form back. Instead, I wrote my name. Hannah Brooks. When I finished, I walked to Mr. Coleman's office and pushed the application under his door. The next morning, a white envelope waited inside my work locker. My name was written across the front. I opened it, expecting an interview time. But the first sentence made my stomach drop. There was a problem with my application. The letter said that my school record was missing. Without it, the hotel could not complete my application. I read the sentence twice. Then I sat on the small bench beside my locker and closed my eyes. For 1 minute, I felt calm. Then every old thought came back. Of course. Something always goes wrong. You should have known this would happen. You were foolish to believe you could change your life. I had left high school more than 20 years earlier. My mother had become ill, and I needed to work. At first, I planned to return after 1 year. Then 1 year became 2. My mother died. I met Daniel. We got married. Lily was born. Life moved forward, and school disappeared behind me. I had never asked for my records. I did not even know whether the old school still kept them. The letter said I had 3 days to bring proof of my education. 3 days. I folded the paper and put it into my pocket. Carla entered the room a few minutes later. She saw my face and asked what had happened. I showed her the letter. She read it and gave it back. That is a sign, she said. A sign of what? That you should leave it alone. Her answer made something inside me become still. For years, I had treated every problem like a final answer. A closed door meant stop. A mistake meant stop. A person's doubt meant stop. I looked at Carla and realized she was not trying to hurt me. She was afraid too. She had given up on many things, so she believed giving up was normal. Maybe I had believed the same thing for too long. No, I said. She looked surprised. No what? It is not a sign to stop. It is just a problem. I went to Mr. Coleman during my lunch break. He was sitting behind his desk, reading a report. I received your letter, I said. He looked up. Yes. Human Resources needs proof that you attended school. I left before I graduated. His expression changed. I could not tell whether he was disappointed or simply thinking. Does that mean I cannot apply? I asked. Not exactly. The job requires a high school diploma or an equivalent certificate. My heart sank. I do not have either. He placed the report on his desk. There is an adult education center in Greenford. They offer an exam for people who did not finish school. How long does that take? It depends on the person. Some study for several months. The interview is next week. I know. He spoke kindly, but I understood the truth. I was too late. I thanked him and left. For the rest of the day, I cleaned rooms without thinking. In one room, a child had left a small red toy car under the bed. I placed it on the desk where the family could see it. In another room, a woman had written a note to the cleaning staff. Thank you for making this room feel peaceful. Normally, a note like that would make me smile. That day, I only felt tired. When I reached home, I did not turn on the lights. I sat beside the window and watched cars move through the rain. The interview had been my reason for studying. Now that chance was gone. Why continue? My phone rang. It was Grace. You were quiet in class yesterday, she said. Are you all right? I told her about the school record and the hotel rule. I knew this was too good to be true, I said. Why do you say that? Because I missed my chance. You missed one interview. It was the only job available. The only job available today, she corrected me. I did not answer. Grace continued, what did you really want when you entered my classroom? A better job. That was not your full answer. I remembered my first evening there. I said I wanted a better life. Yes. Is that goal gone because of one hotel interview? Her question made me uncomfortable. I had connected my whole future to one position. When that position disappeared, I believed my future had disappeared too. Grace told me the community center had a free preparation program for the adult education exam. The next class began on Monday. It may take time, she said. But time will pass whether you study or not. I looked at the rain on the window. How long do you think it will take me? I don't know. What if I'm bad at it? You may be bad at first. What if I fail? Then we learn why, and you try again. She said it so simply. As if failure was not a wall. As if it was only information. On Monday evening, I joined the exam preparation class. The first lesson was painful. The teacher gave us a short math test. I could not remember how to solve most of the questions. Numbers filled the page, but my mind felt empty. A young man beside me finished before I had answered half of them. I wanted to hide my paper. The teacher, Mr. Lane, collected the tests and looked through them. When he returned mine, a red number stood at the top. 32%. I stared at it. The young man beside me had received 89. On the bus home, I held the paper inside my bag like a secret. 32%. It felt like proof that I did not belong there. The next day, I almost skipped class. Instead, I arrived early and asked Mr. Lane to explain the first question. He showed me slowly. Then he showed me again. I still did not understand. My face became hot. I'm sorry, I said. I know this is simple. He put down his pen. It is simple to me because I have practiced it for years. It is not simple to you yet. That one word mattered. Yet. I did not understand it yet. It did not mean I would never understand. For the next 3 months, my life became very small and very full. I woke at 5 in the morning. I worked at the hotel until the afternoon. Then I went to class or the library. At home, I studied for 1 hour before bed. Some nights, I was so tired that the words moved on the page. Sometimes I slept with a book beside me. I stopped watching hours of television. I stopped reading angry comments online. I also spent less time listening to people who told me why things could not work. Carla noticed. You never sit with us at lunch anymore, she said one afternoon. I study in the library. You are becoming too serious. Maybe I was not serious enough before. She rolled her eyes. You think one certificate will fix your whole life? No, I said. But it may help me fix one part of it. Our friendship became quieter after that. I did not hate her. I understood her. But I also understood that I could not carry her fear and my own at the same time. I needed space to think differently. The hardest subject was math. The second hardest was writing. I knew what I wanted to say, but I often did not know how to put it on paper. Mr. Lane told me to begin with short sentences. Clear is better than complicated, he said. So I wrote about my job. I wrote about hotel rooms, guests, and the strange things people forgot. I wrote about Lily. I wrote about my mother. One evening, the class had to write about a past mistake. I sat with my pen above the paper for a long time. Then I wrote about my marriage. I wrote that Daniel had hurt me. I wrote that I had hurt him too. I had believed anger would protect me. Instead, it followed me into every conversation. I stopped listening. I shouted. I used old mistakes as weapons. When Daniel left, I told everyone that he had destroyed our family. But the truth was more difficult. We had both damaged it. Writing those words made my hands shake. For 3 years, I had carried blame like a heavy bag. I gave some of it to Daniel, but I kept most of it for myself. I believed that if I forgave myself, I was saying my mistakes did not matter. Mr. Lane wrote one sentence below my work. Taking responsibility is not the same as living in punishment. I read it many times. That weekend, I called Daniel. We usually spoke only about Lily. When he answered, his voice sounded careful. Is everything okay? Yes. I wanted to talk about something else. There was a pause. I almost ended the call. Instead, I said, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For the way I treated you during our last year together." Daniel stayed silent. I continued before fear could stop me. "You hurt me, and I know I hurt you. I blamed you for everything because it was easier than looking at myself. Hannah, I'm not asking to change the past. I just wanted to tell the truth." He breathed out slowly. "I was not good to you either." "I know." That answer made him laugh softly. It was the first warm sound between us in years. We spoke for almost 30 minutes. We did not repair our marriage. We did not decide to try again. But something between us became lighter. Before ending the call, Daniel said, "Lily told me about your classes." "She did. She is proud of you." I looked down at my notes. "I'm trying." "She says you're different." "I don't feel different." "You sound different." After the call, I cried. Not because I wanted him back. I cried because I finally understood that forgiveness did not erase the past. It only stopped the past from controlling every new day. A week later, Lily came to stay with me. She brought a large paper bag filled with snacks and colored pens. "What is all this?" I asked. "Study supplies." "You bought all of it." "Dad helped." She spread everything across the table. "We are going to make a plan." You helped me study when I was little. Now I'm helping you." Every Saturday after that, Lily tested me. She asked history questions while cooking pasta. She placed English words on small cards. She even created math problems using hotel bills. At first, I hated them. Then I became better. My first practice test score was 41%. The second was 53. Then 64. Each number was still far from perfect, but it was higher than the one before. Small steps. That was all. One evening, Grace asked the class to share one thing that had changed since we began. A man named Victor said he had applied for a driving job. A woman named Rosa said she had started speaking English with customers. When my turn came, I thought carefully. "I no longer believe every thought in my head," I said. Grace smiled. "Explain." "When my mind says I will fail, I ask if that is true. Sometimes it is only fear speaking." The room became quiet. Then Rosa nodded. "I have that voice too." We all did. That was something I had never understood. I thought confident people were born without fear. I thought successful people always knew what to do. But the people in that room were afraid too. They simply acted while they were afraid. 4 months after I began the program, I registered for the exam. It would take place on a Saturday morning at Greenford Adult Learning Center. The night before, I could not sleep. At 2 in the morning, I went to the kitchen and opened my math book. Then I closed it again. No new information would enter my tired mind. I made tea and sat in the dark. For a moment, I imagined failing. I imagined telling Lily. I imagined Carla's face. I imagined returning to the hotel on Monday with nothing changed. Then I remembered something Grace had said. "Your result is not your value." The exam could measure what I knew that day. It could not measure my courage. It could not measure the early mornings, the late nights, or the doors I had opened. I had already changed. The exam would not decide that. The next morning, Lily and Daniel drove me to Greenford. Daniel waited in the car while Lily walked me to the entrance. "You have everything?" she asked. "Identification, pencils, water. And what?" "Your 5 sentences." I smiled. I had stopped saying them every night, but I still remembered the first 5. "My name is Hannah. I work at the Lakeview Hotel. I am learning new skills. I am afraid. But I am still trying." Lily held my hand. "Good. Now go." The exam lasted almost 5 hours. By the final section, my neck hurt and my eyes felt dry. One math question looked impossible. I spent too much time on it. Panic began rising in my chest. Then I stopped. I took one breath. I moved to the next question. Years earlier, one hard problem would have made me give up on the whole test. That day, I left it behind and kept moving. When the exam ended, I walked outside feeling empty. Daniel and Lily were waiting near the car. "How was it?" Lily asked. "I don't know." "Do you think you passed?" "I truly don't know." The results would arrive in 10 days. Those 10 days felt longer than the 4 months of study. Every time my phone rang, my heart jumped. Every time I checked the mailbox, my hands became cold. On the 9th day, there was nothing. On the 10th day, I returned from work and saw a large envelope on the floor inside my apartment. It had come from Greenford Adult Learning Center. I carried it to the kitchen but did not open it. I placed it on the table. Then I washed my hands. I made tea. I cleaned a cup that was already clean. Finally, I called Lily. "It came," I said. "Open it." "I can't." "Yes, you can." "What if I failed?" "Then we make another plan." Her answer was so certain that I laughed. I opened the envelope. The first page showed 4 subject scores. I read the numbers slowly. Then I reached the final line. "Congratulations." I had passed. I covered my mouth with my hand. For several seconds, no sound came out. "Mom," Lily said. "What happened?" "I passed." She screamed so loudly that I had to move the phone away from my ear. Daniel's voice appeared in the background. "What? What happened?" "She passed." I began laughing and crying at the same time. That evening, they came to my apartment with a small cake. Across the top, Lily had written 4 words in blue icing. "You did not stop." The next morning, I carried my certificate to the hotel. The front desk position had been filled months earlier. I knew that. Still, I went to Mr. Coleman's office and placed the certificate on his desk. He looked at it, then looked at me. "You did it." "Yes." "I'm sorry the position is no longer open." "So am I," I said. "But I want you to keep this in my employee file." He nodded. "I will." I started to leave. Then he called my name. "Hannah, wait." He opened a drawer and removed a folder. "Our night front desk worker is leaving next month." I turned back slowly. "The job has not been announced yet," he continued. "The hours are different, and it may be difficult. But if you are interested, I would like you to interview." My heart began beating hard. This was the chance I had wanted. But it came with a problem I had not expected. The night shift began at 11 in the evening and ended at 7 in the morning. It paid more, but it would change my whole life. My classes were in the evening. Lily visited on weekends. My body was already tired from years of physical work. I looked at the folder in Mr. Coleman's hands. Months earlier, I would have said yes immediately because I was afraid another chance would never come. Now I understood that not every open door was the right door. "I need one day to think," I said. Mr. Coleman smiled. "That is a wise answer." That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with 2 pieces of paper. On one, I wrote the reasons to take the job. More money. Better benefits. New experience. A chance to leave cleaning work. On the other, I wrote the risks. Night work. Less time with Lily. No evening classes. Poor sleep. I stared at the lists for almost an hour. Then Lily called. When I told her about the position, she became excited. "You have to take it." "Do I? Isn't this what you wanted?" "I wanted a better life. I'm not sure a night job will give me one." She became quiet. I had surprised both of us. For years, I had believed that any job with more money was automatically better. But I had begun to understand that time mattered too. Health mattered. Peace mattered. The people we loved mattered. The next day, I returned to Mr. Coleman's office. "I will do the interview," I said. "But before I accept anything, I need to know whether there may be another schedule later." That is fair. The interview was set for Friday. For the next 3 evenings, I practiced with Grace. She asked me common questions. Why do you want this position? How would you help an angry guest? What would you do if you made a mistake? At first, my answers were too short. Then they were too long. Grace taught me to speak clearly and stop when the answer was complete. Do not try to sound like someone else, she said. Tell the truth well. On Friday morning, I entered the hotel conference room. Mr. Coleman sat at the table with 2 people from Human Resources. One was a woman named Ms. Bennett. The other was a man named Mr. Hall. They had papers, pens, and serious faces. I sat across from them. My hands were cold, but I kept them still. The first questions were easy. Then Ms. Bennett asked, "You have worked in housekeeping for 6 years. Why should we believe you can handle the front desk?" I had practiced many answers. At that moment, I forgot all of them. For 1 second, the room became silent. Then I looked at her and told the truth. Because I know what happens behind every room number. She raised her eyebrows. I continued. I know how long it takes to prepare a room. I know what guests forget. I know which problems are small and which need quick action. I have listened to angry guests in hallways. I have helped lost children find their parents. I have cleaned rooms after people were sick, frightened, or alone. No one interrupted me. I may be new to the desk, I said, but I am not new to people. Mr. Hall leaned forward. What is your greatest weakness? Another question I had practiced. This time, I answered without fear. I used to give up before other people could reject me. The 3 interviewers looked at me. I told myself no before anyone else had the chance. I am working on that now. Mr. Coleman smiled slightly. Ms. Bennett wrote something on her page. The interview lasted 35 minutes. When it ended, I walked out of the room feeling proud. I did not know whether I would get the job. But I had not hidden. I had not apologized for my past. I had not tried to become a different person. I had simply shown them who I was becoming. 2 days later, Mr. Coleman asked me to meet him near the front desk. He held an envelope. This one was smaller than the others. I opened it carefully. The hotel was offering me the night front desk position. My starting date was in 2 weeks. I should have felt only happiness. Instead, I felt afraid again. Not because I thought I could not do the work. I was afraid because saying yes would mean leaving the life I knew. Even an unhappy life can feel safe when it is familiar. For 6 years, I had followed the same halls, pushed the same cart, and spoken to the same people. At the front desk, everyone would see me. Everyone would hear my mistakes. I would no longer be able to hide behind a closed hotel room door. That night, I placed the job offer beside my certificate. One paper proved that I could finish something difficult. The other asked whether I was ready to begin something new. I had until Monday morning to decide. On Sunday evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. When I opened it, Carla was standing there. She had never visited my home before. Her eyes were red. "I heard you got the job," she said. "Yes. Are you going to take it?" "I think so." She looked down at the floor. Then she told me something I did not expect. She had also wanted the front desk position. She had wanted it for years. But she had never applied. Now she was angry at me, not because I had done something wrong, but because I had done what she was too afraid to do. "I kept telling you it would not work," she said. "I think I needed you to believe me." I did not know what to say. Carla began crying. I wasted so much time. I invited her inside. We sat at my kitchen table, the same place where I had studied every night. "You still have time," I said. She shook her head. "You don't understand. I'm 46. I'm 39. That's different. Only by 7 years." She gave a small, sad laugh. I pushed the community center advertisement toward her. I had kept it on the wall above my table. There are new classes next month, I said. She stared at the paper. I don't know if I can do what you did. You don't need to do what I did. What do I do, then? Open one door. Carla took the advertisement home. I did not know whether she would use it. That choice belonged to her. On Monday morning, I accepted the job. My first night behind the front desk was worse than I had imagined. I entered the wrong room number twice. I forgot how to print a receipt. A guest became angry because his keycard did not work. At 3 in the morning, the computer froze. By 4, I wanted to cry. At 5, an elderly woman came to the desk in her slippers. She looked confused. My husband is missing, she whispered. I asked for her name and room number. Then I checked the lobby and called hotel security. A few minutes later, we found her husband sitting near the vending machines on the second floor. He had become confused and could not remember their room. When they were together again, the woman held my hands. Thank you, she said. Her eyes filled with tears. At that moment, I stopped thinking about the wrong room numbers and the broken keycard. I understood that I did not need to be perfect to be useful. At 7 in the morning, Mr. Coleman arrived. How was your first night? He asked. Terrible. He laughed. That is normal. I made several mistakes. Did the building fall down? No. Did everyone survive? Yes. Then come back tonight. I did. I returned the next night, and the night after that. Slowly, the work became easier. But just when I thought my life was finally moving in the right direction, Lily arrived at my apartment with a suitcase. Her face was pale. She closed the door behind her and said, Mom, I can't stay with Dad anymore. Lily stood in my apartment with a suitcase beside her. Her face was pale. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Mom, I can't stay with Dad anymore. For 1 second, I forgot about my new job, my classes, and every plan I had made. I pulled her into my arms. What happened? She began crying again. At first, she could not speak clearly. I helped her sit on the sofa and brought her a glass of water. Then, slowly, the story came out. Daniel had started seeing someone named Rebecca. Lily had known about her for months, but she had not told me because she did not want to hurt me. Rebecca had moved into Daniel's house 2 weeks earlier. At first, she had been friendly. Then things changed. She complained about Lily's clothes on the floor. She complained about the noise from her music. She complained when Lily came home late from school activities. Daniel tried to keep the peace, but he usually told Lily to be more understanding. That evening, there had been a fight. Rebecca had said Lily was old enough to follow rules or find another place to live. Daniel had told Rebecca to calm down, but he had not told her to leave. Lily went upstairs, packed a suitcase, and called a friend for a ride. I waited for Dad to stop me, she whispered. He didn't. My first feeling was anger. I wanted to call Daniel and shout at him. I wanted to tell him he had failed as a father. I wanted to use every painful word I had saved from our marriage. Then I looked at Lily. She did not need another fight. She needed safety. You can stay here, I said. She wiped her face. But your job is at night. We will make it work. I don't want to ruin everything for you. You are not ruining anything. But you just started. I took her hand. You are my daughter. This is your home too. That night, Lily slept in my bed. I sat at the kitchen table, looking at the job schedule. My shift began at 11. I had to leave the apartment at 10. Lily was 17, not 7. She could stay alone. But I knew this was not only about being alone. She felt unwanted. I could not leave her every night and pretend that money was the only thing that mattered. The next morning, I called Daniel. He answered after the third ring. Is Lily with you? Yes. Is she all right? No. He became quiet. She was angry, he said. I thought she needed space. She packed a suitcase. I know. And you let her walk out. I didn't know what to do. That answer brought back old memories. During our marriage, Daniel often waited for problems to disappear. He was not cruel, but he avoided hard decisions. This time, avoiding the problem had hurt Lily. You should have followed her, I said. I called her. She needed you to choose her. I was trying not to make things worse. You did make things worse. My voice was rising. I stopped. The old Hannah wanted to attack him. The new Hannah understood that anger might feel powerful, but it would not help Lily. I took a breath. She can stay with me for now, I said. But you need to talk to her. I will. Not when it is easy. Today. After the call, I contacted Mr. Coleman. I expected him to sound disappointed. Instead, he listened quietly. I need a few nights off, I said. I know I am new, but my daughter is having a family problem. How many nights? I'm not sure. He was silent for a moment. We can cover 3 nights, he said. After that, we need to make a plan. Thank you. Hannah, remember something. Good workers still have families. I had never heard a manager say that before. For years, I believed that asking for help made me weak. That morning, I understood something different. Asking for help could be responsible. For the next 3 days, Lily stayed close to me. She did not want to talk much. We cooked simple meals. We watched old movies. We walked through the neighborhood. On the second evening, Daniel came to the apartment. Lily refused to open the door. He waited in the hallway for almost an hour. Finally, she let him inside. I stayed in the kitchen while they spoke in the living room. At first, their voices were quiet. Then Lily shouted, "You chose her. I did not choose anyone over you." "Yes, you did. When she told me to leave, you said nothing." I was shocked. "You are always shocked when someone needs you to act." Her words were sharp, but they were honest. Daniel did not defend himself. After a long silence, he said, "You're right." Lily began crying. "I wanted you to come after me. I know." "No, you didn't." "I know now." When Daniel left, his face looked older. He and Rebecca separated a week later. I did not ask for details. That was not my story anymore. Lily decided to stay with me until she finished high school. That meant we needed a new plan. I could not work full nights and be present for her during the day. I spoke with Mr. Coleman again. The hotel had no open day position at the front desk. But he offered me a mixed schedule. 2 night shifts. 2 evening shifts. 1 morning shift. It was not perfect, but it gave me more time at home. I accepted. The first month was difficult. My body did not understand when to sleep. Some days, I felt strong. Other days, I forgot simple things. Once, I poured orange juice into my coffee. Lily laughed so hard that she almost fell off her chair. That laugh was a good sound. Slowly, our home became warm again. She studied at the kitchen table while I practiced hotel systems on my laptop. Sometimes we worked in silence. Sometimes she asked me questions. "Mom, do you regret marrying Dad?" The question surprised me. No. Even after everything. If I had not married him, I would not have you. That is a very mother answer. It is also true. She smiled. Then she asked, "Do you still love him?" I thought carefully. I care about him. But I don't want our old life back. How do you know? Because I miss some memories, but I don't miss the person I was. That answer surprised me too. For years, I had believed Daniel was the reason my life stopped. Now I saw the truth. He had made mistakes, but I had also stopped choosing myself. I had waited for someone else to make me happy. When no one did, I believed happiness was impossible. 6 months passed. I became more confident at the hotel. I learned how to calm angry guests. I learned how to solve booking problems. I learned when to ask for help. One evening, A man arrived after a long flight. The hotel had lost his reservation. He was tired and angry. "This is your mistake," he said. "I have nowhere to sleep." The old Hannah would have become nervous. She would have apologized again and again without solving anything. Instead, I looked at the computer and said, "You are right to be upset. Give me 5 minutes." I called another hotel, found him a room, and arranged free transport. Before leaving, he said, "You handled that well." Those 4 words stayed with me all night. You handled that well. A year earlier, I could not open a classroom door. Now I could stand in front of an angry stranger and think clearly. Change had not arrived like lightning. It had arrived in small moments. 1 class. 5 sentences. 15 minutes of study. 1 difficult phone call. 1 application. 1 interview. 1 more day without giving up. I began helping new workers at the hotel. Many of them were nervous about speaking English. I knew that fear well. I showed them simple sentences. I taught them how to greet guests, answer questions, and ask for help. One of the workers was Carla. She had finally joined the community center classes. At first, she told no one. Then one morning, she showed me her notebook. "I wrote an email," she said. I read it. The grammar was not perfect, but the message was clear. "This is good," I said. "No, it isn't. It is better than your first one. You never saw my first one." "Exactly." She laughed. A few months later, Carla applied for a team leader position in housekeeping. She did not get it. For 2 days, she was angry. Then she came to me and said, "I'm going to ask why." The manager told her she needed more computer skills and better attendance. Instead of giving up, she made a plan. That was new for her. It was new for both of us. Lily finished high school the following spring. On graduation day, she wore a blue cap and gown. Daniel sat on one side of me. Rebecca was no longer part of his life. He and Lily had slowly rebuilt their relationship. It was not perfect, but he was trying. When Lily's name was called, she walked across the stage and accepted her diploma. I stood and clapped. Then something happened that I did not expect. After the students returned to their seats, Lily looked toward me. She touched the top of her cap and pointed at mine. I was not wearing one, but I understood. We had both finished something. After the ceremony, we took pictures outside the school. Daniel placed one arm around Lily. I stood on her other side. For one photo, we looked like a family again. But not the old family. A new one. A family that had changed shape. A family that had been hurt. A family that was still learning how to care for one another. That evening, Lily gave me a small box. Inside was a silver key on a chain. "It is beautiful," I said. "Read the back." 2 words were written on it. "Open doors." I held the key in my hand. "You gave me the first push," I said. "No. I only reminded you. You opened the door." 3 weeks later, Lily moved to another city for college. The night before she left, we sat on the floor surrounded by boxes. Her room looked almost empty. I felt proud, but I also felt afraid. For the past year, so much of my life had been about helping her. What would I do when she was gone? She seemed to understand. "You're not going back to the old apartment life," she said. "What does that mean?" "Closed curtains. Dirty cups. Television all night. I do not do that anymore." "Good." She looked at me seriously. "You need another goal." I laughed. "Can I rest first?" "For 1 week." The next morning, I watched her car disappear at the end of the street. Then I returned to the quiet apartment. For a few minutes, I stood in the kitchen. The old loneliness came close. But this time, I did not let it enter. I opened the curtains. I made coffee. Then I wrote a list. I wanted to continue learning. I wanted to help other adults who were afraid to begin. I wanted to travel somewhere I had never been. I wanted to save money for a better apartment. I wanted to learn what life looked like when fear was not making every decision. A month later, Grace asked me to visit the community center. She had a new evening class for adults who were learning English and job skills. Some of them are thinking about leaving, she said. They believe they are too old or too slow. I understand. I know. That is why I want you to speak to them. My first answer was no. I was not a teacher. I was not a public speaker. I still made grammar mistakes. Then Grace asked, "What would you have needed to hear outside room 14? I thought about the woman I had been. Tired. Ashamed. Standing behind a closed door. I would have needed someone to tell me that fear was normal. Then tell them." On Tuesday evening, I returned to room 14. 20 people sat in a circle. Some were young. Some were older than me. Many looked nervous. Grace introduced me. Then she stepped aside. I stood near the whiteboard. My hands were shaking. For a moment, I could not speak. The room waited. I looked at the door. Then I began. The first time I came here, I stood outside for 12 minutes. A few people smiled. Then I went home. They listened. I was afraid everyone would be smarter than me. I was afraid I would fail. I was afraid my mistakes would prove that I could not change. A woman in the front row nodded. I came back the next night, I continued. Not because my fear was gone. I came back because I was tired of letting fear choose my life. The room became very quiet. I told them about my job. I told them about the exam. I told them about my 32% math score. Someone laughed gently. I wanted to hide that paper, I said. But it was not a final answer. It only showed me where to begin. After I finished, a man near the window raised his hand. "How did you stay motivated?" I didn't. He looked confused. I was not motivated every day, I explained. Some days, I was tired. Some days, I was angry. Some days, I wanted to stop. Then how did you continue? I made the next step small. I held up one finger. 1 page. 1 question. 5 sentences. 15 minutes. The woman in the front row asked, "What if your family does not support you?" "That is hard," I said. "But you can begin before they understand." Another student asked, "What if I am too old?" "How old are you?" 52. I smiled. "You will still be 53 next year. The question is whether you want to be 53 with the same fear, or 53 with 1 year of progress." The class became silent again. Grace smiled from the back of the room. After that evening, she invited me to return once a month. Then twice a month. The community center began paying me a small amount to help students practice job interviews. I never planned to become a teacher. I did not feel like one. I simply shared what I had learned. A year later, the hotel created a new position. Guest services trainer. The person would teach new workers, help with difficult guests, and support employees who were still learning English. Mr. Coleman encouraged me to apply. This time, I did not wait for someone to tell me I was ready. I filled out the form that same day. The interview was difficult. There were 5 candidates. 2 had college degrees. 1 had worked in a large hotel in another city. I did not know whether my experience would be enough. But I knew I had something valuable. I understood what it felt like to be invisible. I understood what it felt like to be afraid of your own voice. I understood how one patient person could change the direction of someone's life. 3 days later, Mr. Coleman called me into his office. The room looked exactly as it had when I first asked about the front desk position. He pushed a letter across the table. "You earned this," he said. I opened it. The hotel was offering me the job. The salary was higher. The hours were during the day. The position included training at another hotel for 2 weeks. I read the letter twice. Then I looked at Mr. Coleman. "Are you sure?" He laughed. That is not the right question. What is the right question? Are you ready? I thought about the first classroom door. I thought about the exam envelope. I thought about Lily arriving with a suitcase. I thought about every night when I had wanted to return to my old life because it felt safe. Yes, I said. I'm ready. My first trip for the hotel was to a city near the coast. I had never seen the ocean. After the training ended, I walked alone to the beach. The sky was grey, and the wind was strong. Waves rolled toward the land and disappeared across the sand. I stood there for a long time. Years earlier, I had found family photographs in hotel rooms. People were smiling beside the ocean. Their lives had looked full. I believed that kind of life belonged to other people. Now I took out my phone and called Lily. She answered from her college apartment. "Where are you?" she asked. I turned the camera toward the water. The ocean. "You finally went." "Yes." "Are you happy?" It was the same question she had asked me years earlier. This time, I did not answer too quickly. I looked at the water. I thought about my life. Not everything was easy. I still worried about money. I still became afraid. I still made mistakes. Daniel and I still disagreed sometimes. Lily still had difficult days. My life was not perfect. But it was mine again. "Yes," I said. "I think I am." After the call, I walked closer to the water. A cold wave touched my shoes. I stepped back and laughed. Then I remembered the woman I had been at 39. She believed her past was a prison. She believed small effort did not matter. She believed she needed permission. She believed failure meant stop. She filled her mind with doubt. She gave her time to things that did not help her. She blamed herself without mercy. She stayed close to people who fed her fear. She spoke to herself like an enemy. Most of all, she believed her story was almost over. She was wrong. My life did not change because I became lucky. It did not change because fear disappeared. It changed because one evening, while I was still afraid, I opened a door. That door led to another. Then another. Some doors brought success. Some brought problems. Some led to rooms I was not ready for. But each time I made a choice, I learned something. I learned that the past could explain me without controlling me. I learned that progress could be slow and still be real. I learned that I could begin without approval. I learned that failure was painful, but it was not permanent. I learned to protect my mind. I learned to protect my time. I learned to forgive myself. I learned that some people could not walk every road with me. I learned to speak to myself with patience. And I learned that as long as I was still here, my story could continue. 2 years after that first class, I returned to the community center for a special event. Grace was retiring. Former students filled the room. Victor had become a bus driver. Rosa worked in a medical office. Carla was now a housekeeping team leader. The man who thought he was too old had passed his exam at 53. One by one, people stood and shared what Grace had done for them. When my turn came, I walked to the front. Grace sat in the first row. I held the old advertisement from the community center. The paper was faded and soft at the edges. "I found this under a bench," I said. At the time, I thought it was only a piece of paper. I looked at Grace. But it became an invitation. She smiled. Not just to a class. It invited me back into my own life. After the event, Grace and I stood outside room 14. "You did the work," she said. "You opened the door for me." "No," she replied. "The door was already there." She touched my arm gently. "You opened it." That evening, I returned home and placed the old advertisement in a frame. Below it, I put the silver key Lily had given me. Then I wrote one sentence on a small card. Change does not always begin with a big plan. Sometimes it begins with one small decision. I placed the card between them. The next morning, I woke before my alarm. Sunlight came through the open curtains. My work clothes were ready on the chair. A message from Lily waited on my phone. "Good luck with your new training group today." I smiled. Then I stood in front of the mirror. I no longer needed to say the 5 sentences every day. But sometimes, I still did. My name is Hannah. I am still learning. I still feel afraid. I still make mistakes. And I am still moving forward. Then I picked up my keys and opened the door. Sometimes one small decision can change the direction of an entire life. What door are you still afraid to open, and what might happen if you finally take the first step?